So now it's time to learn about asymmetric encryption. Now we learned about symmetric encryption. The problem we learned there was a hacker could actually sniff out the common key between the server and the user and then end up encrypting or decrypting any of the messages. And it was fast and efficient. But now we want it to be more secure. So we can let go of a little bit of speed, a little bit of efficiency, but we introduce more security. And that's what asymmetric encryption does. A very popular algorithm for that is the RSA algorithm. So the way RSA works is you have a public key and a private key at each of the parties. And the public key is the open lock key. So people use it to lock messages to send to you. And then you have the private key, which is the only key that can open the lock on the messages that people send you. So if I want to send you a secret, I use your public key to encrypt it, and only your private key can decrypt it. So how is this lock created? It's created by multiplying two giant prime numbers. And the trick here is that it's easy to multiply primes, but extremely hard to split them apart. This is what keeps RSA secure. But for now, let's zoom out and understand asymmetric encryption and how it actually works. So you have three parties: user, the server, and the server that forwards the keys and messages between them. We want complete security between the user and the server. So at the user side, we generate a private key and public key. Now, the important thing to remember is that the public key and private key are mathematically linked. But that does not mean that if you get the public key, you will be able to derive the private key. That's not possible. Even though they're mathematically linked, it's not possible to derive the private key from the public key. And similarly, at the server side, also we have generated a private and a public key. So for asymmetric encryption to work, they both have to do something called as a key exchange, wherein the user sends his public key to the server and the server sends his public key to the user. So the user, let's say, has private key A and public key A. And the server has private key B and public key B. We now know that they're both mathematically linked. Similarly, here also mathematically linked. At no point in time do any of the parties share their private key. They only share their public key, which is meant to be shared to the other person with whom they want to start an encrypted connection. So you've shared the public key A with the server, and the server has shared public key B with the user. So now, if you think about it, at the user's side, not only do you have private key A and public key A, but you also have public key B, which you just received. Similarly, at the server side, not only do you have private key B and public key B, but you also have public key A that's been received from here. So I'll just go ahead and update that quickly. All right. So now how does encryption work here? So what happens is, at the user's side, when it wants to send a message that only the server should be able to read, so it takes the message, uses the public key B that the server had sent to the user, and then encrypts the message. This encrypted message is sent to this forwarding server. The forwarding server sends it to the server. And this encrypted message can only be decrypted by private key B. And how does that work? It's because I told you that the public key B and the private key B are mathematically linked. So when user encrypts the message using public key B, it can only be decrypted using private key B. And this is why server never shares private key B with anyone. This is how encryption works. I want to take a quick break to tell you guys about my cohort, which is called Algoroq. Now, it's a 3-month, highly focused cohort on system design. Now, the idea is that in the next few years, human engineers won't be writing a lot of code. Now, if you've used something like GPT-5 Codex or Claude CLI or Cursor, you know that AI can write a lot of the code for us. And in the near future, human engineers like us will be more responsible for architecting systems and system design rather than the implementation of the code itself. And this is why this 3-month self-paced cohort focuses on ultra-modern system design problems like building AI agentic platforms, building platforms that serve LLM models, building tools like Cursor, building decentralized messaging applications, distributed loggers, distributed file systems, and many more such difficult system design problems. It's meant for senior engineers wanting to move into leadership positions. So if you're someone who wants to go to the next level in their career, this is the only cohort that does that. There's no other cohort that focuses only on senior engineers. You will be learning as part of a group, and most of the people in your group will have more than 7 years of work experience in engineering. So check out the Algoroq website that's in the description of this video And all you need to do is fill up a form. We'll get in touch with you. We'll see if you're a good fit for the cohort, and then we can take things forward. Now let's get back to the video. So apart from encryption, you can also do something called as an authenticity check using RSA or asymmetric encryption, which is to verify that the messages really came from A. So how do you do that? So at the user side, you have a private key, you have the public key A, and you also have the public key B. So it's important to remember that. So now what the user does is takes a message and it signs it, not encrypts it, but signs it with the private key A, which only the user has. This signed message is sent to the forwarding server sends it to the server. The server takes this signed message, and you remember the server has private key B, public key B, but also public key A that it received during the key exchange in the beginning. So it takes this message, applies public key A, and gets the message that was signed, which authenticates that the message was indeed sent by user A. So in this video, we've understood how the key exchange takes place, how asymmetric encryption works, and how you can send authenticated signed messages. By now, we're clear with symmetric encryption, asymmetric encryption, and we've also understood all the other concepts like encoding, serialization, hashing, and so on. Now in the next message, we'll take things a little bit further. We'll talk about how this key exchange actually works. So I told you that you can exchange the public keys, but it's not that straightforward. We don't want hackers to be able to sniff out our public keys also. So let's learn in the next video.